welcome to my video series on music education for middle schoolers. Today we're going to be talking about the developmental changes that happen for middle schoolers between the ages of 6th and 8th grade and how these changes can affect the music classroom and the learning that happens inside of those classrooms. So a big problem that middle school classroom teachers will deal with is just the emotional turbulence that students experience while they are at this age. One day you might come into class and have a group of happy adolescents looking at you, smiling, and the next day you might come in and have an incredibly grumpy, sullen, and resentful class of adolescents looking at you. And as a teacher, you have to be prepared for this, and you also have to know that very little of this probably is going to have to do with you or what's happening inside of the classroom, but rather just all of the emotions and feelings that students are having related to personal things going on in their personal lives, or just how they're feeling that day. Their hormone levels might be shifting and changing, and so that's something that as a middle school teacher you have to learn how to cope with. In my own experience with middle schoolers, the number one thing that you should be thinking about when you walk into the classroom is managing the environment. So when you have a room full of students that are feeling so many different things for so many different reasons, it's really important that you bring a sense of unity and regulation to the environment. Otherwise, things can get really chaotic really quickly. So a great way to do that is maintaining your consistent tone of voice and attitude at the beginning of every class, maybe starting each day and ending each day with a consistent phrase, or the same way that you greet the students, just to let them know that they are in a consistent environment where they will be treated the exact same every day, no matter how they're feeling on the inside. It's also great to remember that this is a super formative time for these students. So the emotional habits that they build in the middle school classroom will often carry over into high school. So the way that you're teaching your students to think about the classroom environment and the ways that they are allowed to act and treat each other in that classroom are going to set them up for either success or failure during high school and higher education. So let's talk a little bit about music education in light of all of these realities. The first point that's really important is that music is unlike a lot of other school subjects in that it is incredibly expressive. So while students might feel really restricted and held back and kind of imprisoned within classes such as math or even history or some of the other humanities where they are being tested on material and expected to communicate material in a certain way, music is very freeing. So there's a creative aspect there that a lot of middle schoolers might really resonate with. And as a music educator, it's our job to think through how to prepare our students well to view music as that creative outlet, that expressive form of communication that they can then set their emotions loose and maybe find ways to put feelings to communication that they don't have words to describe. That can be a really healthy outlet for students of this age. Another aspect of the music classroom that is somewhat surprisingly good for this age group is the regulated and disciplined aspect of this classroom. So although music does offer students a chance to be creative and expressive and think outside the box, there are still rules that music students have to adhere to, otherwise they can't make music properly. And just like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, setting an atmosphere and creating a consistent environment is really helpful for the turbulent feelings going on inside middle schoolers' brains and heads and hearts. That part of the classroom is really helpful for them. So when they come into the music classroom, they know that they need to behave in a certain way. They need to follow the rules of music theory and music rhythm. Otherwise, it just won't work. And that can be kind of a safe foundation to build from that will actually let them be more creative in the long run because they can follow those rules. So, with all that being said, let's talk about some specific application. The first thing that we should keep in mind as middle school educators is that middle schoolers probably are not going to tend towards the solo performance aspect. They are feeling much more self-conscious and uncertain of who they are and how they want to be portrayed, how they want to be seen by their peers. So bursting into the music classroom on day one and asking who wants a solo might be received well by 2 or 3 students, but everyone else is going to draw back in horror. I don't want to sing alone in front of everyone. That's terrifying. So while planning activities, it is probably better to keep the focus on group activities and ensembles where students can feel like they are participating and contributing without standing out too much. And this does allow for individual showcasing and freedom, but it will be more helpful in the end for those students to feel like they have that safety net of a group, especially for performances if you have concerts or any kind of performance or showcase at the end of a semester or partway through a semester. In our next video, we'll take a little bit closer look at the practical side of this information as we start thinking about different music teaching methods educators can use, specifically at the middle school age, but also in grades K through 12th. See you next time.